The Anomaly Match platform is a complement to ThreatStream. It's typically installed on a virtual machine and software, but we can also provide an appliance with the software already installed if you choose to go the physical hardware route. Our last option for hosting is to host it in a private cloud environment for you. So how does it work? For starters, we download all of the indicators from ThreatStream, and we correlate that data with all of your internal security events. And so Match directly addresses some of the limitations of security technology in two ways. SIEMs normally only correlate up to about 1 to 2 million indicators, and other technologies like web gateways and firewalls do correlation on the order of tens of thousands. Anomaly Match is doing correlation on the scale of hundreds of millions of indicators. And two, most customers only have a few months of hot data in their SIEM. And so Match is storing as much data as you have available. It's all readily searchable. And we find that most of our customers have a few years of historical data saved. So on the left, we have all of your known bad indicators, hundreds of millions of indicators. And on the right, we have all of your log sources coming from your SIEM, your endpoint logs, your email logs, and generally all of your historical log data. And we're able to do threat hunting on this scale very quickly because we're only using log metadata and we're keeping the fields that we need to identify threats here in the middle. So just like in ThreatStream, we have rich multidimensional dashboards. Right now, we're looking at about 7 days of data, but we're able to go back to view the last 5 years or so. If we were just looking at the last 2 years, we can see that we're working with about 143 million indicators and 48 million events. So we're correlating all this data together to find matches to known malware in your environment. All right, so analysts can use our dashboards to triage the highest priority matches in their environment based on risk score of the assets or based on the IOC score of the indicators. And if they already know their starting point, they can use Match to conduct a retrospective threat hunt. So let's see how we would do that. So I have a malware domain here. And if an analyst wanted to see what that looked like inside of Match and get some high-level context, they could go here to our Explorer. They're able to quickly conduct a retrospective search across the entire data set, and Match is working to see if any matches exist inside of the environment. This type of retrospective search would take days or weeks to do in a SIEM. You know, we know that the average time to detect compromise is about 200 days. So security teams often have to conduct these types of retrospective searches over a time range that's not readily available in the SIEM. And this is very cumbersome for defenders today. You can see that we searched 37 million events and we have some hits. We have about 10 hits in our environment back about a year ago in 2019. Looking over here at the action, we can see that it was allowed. So there are definitely some incident response steps that we need to take. We have an IP address listed as the victim, but we don't have a lot of other details about the victim that was involved with these communications. So how do we help customers with that? Well, for starters, we have an asset manager built into the platform. And so what that means is that you can bring your entire asset inventory into the Match platform so that defenders now don't need to think very hard about what machines were involved in a particular incident, because you have all of that, your incident data mapped to your asset inventory. And we're able to bring this data in from a few different sources. So we can integrate directly with Qualys and Tenable to bring in your asset inventory. We can also bring in all of the vulnerabilities associated with those assets at any given point in time and store that. We're also able to bring your asset inventory in via CSV, or we can manually create your asset inventory. All right, so once we bring the asset inventory data in, we're able to see even more details around our internal assets that are communicating with malicious infrastructure. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Let's take one of our top 20 impacted hosts by risk score. You see, we'll just click on the top highest score result. And in the asset history here, you can see that we're providing the entire timeline for this particular asset communicating to malicious infrastructure dating back to 2018. And if we scroll down on this timeline, you can see that we track all of the asset history here. We have vulnerabilities that were actually scanned and detected on this asset on this day coming in from our vulnerability scanner. And so we know at what time our asset was vulnerable to certain exploits. We know what days it was communicating with malicious infrastructure, and that's going to really improve our incident response effort and help save countless hours. All right. So what do we do if the analyst doesn't have a clear starting point? How will they know that malicious indicators in the wild have been seen in their environment and that they should pivot into Match to investigate? So Match integrates with our natural language plugin that we call Anomali Lens. So Anomali Lens uses natural language processing to find known and unknown threats inside a browser page. When Lens scans a page, it automatically will do retrospective searching in Match for any indicators it identifies. So it's working right now to scan this page, and you can see it's identified malware, CVEs, URLs, IPs, domains, hashes, email addresses, and even MITRE ATT&CK TTPs right here on the page with the click of a button. So now as an analyst, I didn't have to read this research report at all. I know what's relevant to my cyber efforts. Scrolling down, Match identifies a couple different things. You see malware, it's identified the TTPs. I can hover over it and get more context around these threats. But more importantly, this C2 server highlighted in red, this tells me that Match and Lens working together, they've identified that this particular IP address exists in my environment. We get all the context around this particular indicator, and we can quickly pivot into Match to view those results. So very quickly, I was able to identify that a research report on malware that I was viewing on the internet referenced indicators that were seen in my environment, and then I was able to pivot and look at the actual results inside of Match. That saves analysts so much time, and that's super powerful for our network defenders. Our Anomaly Match platform also it works to identify any domain-generated algorithm domains in your environment. So if I go to Activity and DGA Match, it's going to tell me if any communications that it's looking at are likely DGA domains. So it's doing its search right now. All right. So here are all the matches in our environment that are likely DGA domains. And so this is helpful for identifying any assets in your environment that are likely beaconing out to DGA domains, which have been created as created by malware. Match also has a capability to show you all of the matches in your environment and which feeds those matches tied to. So many times our customers have to justify spend on premium feeds to management, and we know that premium feeds aren't cheap. Customers need a way to prove value to management, and we know you can't send all of your premium feed data to the SIM and your other downstream systems, but we're sending it all to Match. We can't show you which premium feeds are finding indicators in your environment, or we can show you which premium feeds are finding indicators in your environment. But this is a great tool for determining which ones are providing current value and which ones might not be well aligned to your environment. So that concludes the Match overview. This is Thomas Graves, sales engineer with Anomali. Happy to take any questions.